Yeah, but it was great to get outside this week, man. And just the sunshine alone feels pretty amazing on your skin. So just that makes me smile just a little bit more.
At the field, in your car, or on the couch, get your fast pitch info from the coach's mouth. Welcome to the From the Coach's Mouth podcast with your hosts, Jay Bolden and Ken Kraus.
Welcome, everybody, to From the Coach's Mouth. It's Jay Bolden with my good friend here, Ken Kraus, and we are excited for this podcast. Thanks to everybody who's been listening so far. Hope you guys are enjoying the episodes, and we're excited for this episode today, too. Ken, how things been going, man?
Yeah, things are going good with me. It's warm here today. I imagine you guys are probably going to be practicing outdoors.
Yeah, we've been outside the last 3 days. A little bit of snow where the sun's not getting to the field, but we had a bullpen session the other day outside. Pitchers are looking good. We went live scrimmage yesterday. We're excited. We've been out to take some fly balls outside, and we open up a week from tomorrow out in Sioux City, Iowa, against some really solid NAIA teams out there, and then come back home, and we're up in the Rosemont Dome up here in Chicago. So we're in the domes here for the next month or so once we get going, and then from there we're going to head out to Gulf Shores, play some really tough NAIA teams down there. So. Yeah, but it was great to get outside this week, man. And just the sunshine alone feels pretty amazing on your skin. So just that makes me smile just a little bit more.
All right. Well, that sounds good. I saw one team on a live stream that looked like that they had all the kids get out there with snow shovels. And they shoveled off the infield so that they could do that. Outfield still had snow. I guess, as usual, the outfielders get no respect. But, we
were pretty lucky. Our field... Yeah, our field was, like I said, we had just one area by our dugout. Everything else was clear. So we got to do the full gamut out there this week, and we're excited about today, too.
All right. Well, we're going to get to our guests now. I think we both feel lucky that we get to talk to this amazing woman and trailblazer today. She's a former Division I pitcher at the University of South Carolina, Upstate. Her credentials include being named the 2014 ASUN Conference Pitcher of the Year, as well as being an NFCA second-team All-Region selection. Later, she became the 9th softball player in the program's history to be inducted into the USC Upstate Hall of Fame, as well as the second player drafted into the National Pro Fastpitch League by the Pennsylvania Rebellion. From there, she branched out to being a private pitching coach, as well as joining the working world in marketing. That path led her to her present position as a senior marketing manager for GameChanger and the pitching coach at Pacific Lutheran University. And on top of all that, she's a mom. Please welcome our good friend, Anna Nickel.
Yay. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Anna.
Excited to have you, Anna.
Yeah, we're really glad for you to join us today. We're happy you're out on the West Coast, so I know this is a little early for you.
Yeah, with a baby, there's no such thing as early anymore. It's all just awake or asleep time. And, we're starting our days usually around 5 a.m. So, this is like halfway through the day.
All right.
Very true.
Yeah. And, usually the littlest person determines the family schedule. So.
Yes. Well, my daughter is the queen of determining the family schedule. So she's got us really trained well. If anything, like she's really training us. The ultimate coach is, high expectations, firm demands. She's the ultimate example of, how you command a room.
That's great to hear. Well, we wanted to ask you a few questions today. Obviously, you've got a pretty nice resume there, have accomplished a lot of things, but how did that journey begin for you?
Back in the day when we were getting going, I loved all the sports. I could not get enough of all the sports. I wanted to play every single thing that had a ball. I think I talked my parents into letting me try gymnastics and ice skating, and that didn't last very long. As a tall, gangly child, I just didn't have a lot of coordination. So those didn't pan out for me. I played a little bit of soccer, played a little bit of basketball, played volleyball. I pretty much played everything that I could possibly play in a team sport sense. My mom really loved tennis. I was awful at tennis, like really bad. And so she was like, okay, that's probably not what we're going to do.
Right there with you. I have to tell you, right there with you. My friends used to play tennis. I would go play tennis with them. And most of the time I would just wind up taking my racket and whacking it against the fence, throwing it in a garbage can and walking away. And then they'd have to go dig it out so they could play with me again, because I was an easy mark.
Yeah, I like to hit it hard. That didn't mean a direction. I like to hit it. And tennis balls, they really take off. So like I would just like, we'd lose all the balls. So like very quickly, it's like, well, you can't really play without a tennis ball. So that was not the sport for me. I liked going, full send all the time. So, I got into Little League at our local area, Wolf Creek Little League, shout out in Beaverton, Oregon.
Nice.
I grew up where they had the Little League Softball World Series that used to be in Portland, Oregon. And so, every summer we would go watch games. We actually hosted athletes a couple times. So Little League Softball was a really big part of just my understanding of sport and community. And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't that great. I just loved playing. I thought it was so fun. I still have my first T-ball trophy. There's very few trophies I actually have kept over time, like a lot of my college ones, very important to me, like the work I put in, but like from my time growing up, my first T-ball trophy, it's like this little glove, it's bronze. It's like the only trophy from my like young playing days that I've kept, because it meant so much to me. Like it was really the first time I got to play. I was playing with my best friend at the time. And so for me, softball really represented this place where I could go, full send, go hard with my friends. And it was just such a fun time. Like, you just show up and play.
That's good. Were your parents involved with it at all?
No. So I think this is the thing that surprises people a lot, is that my parents are the least athletic driven people. They do not believe in like sport as like the pinnacle of achievement. It was always like, we play sports because it's fun and it's challenging, and you should do an activity that is enjoyable and puts you in spaces where you want to be with your friends, competitive, all those things. And I'm one of 5 children. And so they just, they didn't have any extra bandwidth to coach. So oftentimes I was getting picked up by, one of my friend's parents and taken to practice and brought home by that same friend parents. And so we really relied on the staying locally to our area so I could play sports, because we didn't have the bandwidth for me to go farther. So they were the most supportive of like, yeah, we'll get you signed up. We'll do all the things. We'll put you in places to succeed. But how I did, they could not care less. Like they were so proud of me, whatever I chose to do. So from that lens, I had no idea how good I had it. I had no pressure put on me by my parents to be successful in sport. They wanted me to work hard at it. They wanted me to give my all. But if I was the best, and let's be real, parents have a horrible lens of like how good their child is.
No.
My parents thought I was awesome. They're like, you're so good. I'm like, I'm very average. But they were just so proud of the work I was putting in and the growth. And so I really had this, a lack of understanding sometimes of how I fit into the scheme of things, because my parents didn't really think that was that important for me to be, quote unquote, the best.
So you start out, you're doing all that, all these awesome sports, and then you just gravitate towards softball. And then did you start out when you first started playing softball, did you start out wanting to be a pitcher, or is that something that over to you like, hey, that looks cool, let me give that a try, and then you were just kind of naturally great at it? Or how did that work? How did that start for you?
Yeah, I think I had FOMO, like all kids do. I feel like everyone starts out wanting to be a pitcher. They're like, that looks fun. Why don't I try that? And actually, I wasn't that great. I'm gonna be really like, I don't think people think like, oh, natural athletes, like you just know. No, like it. Sure, I was tall and I could throw decently hard and from a young age, but it was more that I just wanted the ball. It really wasn't like, oh, she's so natural. Opposite. Like there was nothing quote unquote natural about my command. That is something I've had to work. I worked until the day I stopped throwing, was working on command, because that was just something I've always had a hard time with. Like power, not a problem. Going hard, not a problem. Command, very hard for me. I led the conference in walks probably. I don't know if I actually did, but like it was just never my MO to be super in command. I just wanted it really bad. So if you're a coach out there and you're like, oh, this kid just doesn't really have it today, and you see potential, like that's how I was. Like you look to me and you're like, she looks like she should pitch pretty well. And you know what? I look, sometimes I look great, and other days I didn't. And we'll get into this a bit later of what I feel like was my true turning point in command. But you know, I really wanted it. I just wanted to be great. And I think that internal drive to want to be great wasn't about my coaches being like, do better. It was that I wanted to be better. And that doesn't mean I always did a great job. It just means I wanted it. And when I wasn't great, I was willing to pick myself back up and try again and try again and try again. So I will say my stubbornness, you know, reframed as resilience, reframed as, you know, never giving up. Stubbornness, which I also see in my sweet daughter, you know, is one of those traits of myself that is a double-edged sword, right? It's probably my best trait, and it's also sometimes my worst trait. So it's stubbornness is the key to my success.
Well, that's good. You know, I think that a lot of times when I see kids and they're struggling with it a little bit, I always try to tell them that the circle looks very bright and shiny from the outside, but inside it can be a very dark and lonely place. If things aren't going well, you know, all of a sudden you feel all that pressure and everything. So that's great that you were able to just kind of get past that and go, I just want to do this.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The pressure I put on myself was exponentially higher than anything anyone else was putting on me. And it's something I like to talk about now, like a lot with our pitchers at our program, with girls I coach, which is the pressure you put on yourself is the pressure you're feeling. People can't make you feel pressure. They can ask something of you, but they can't make you feel pressure. You are allowing yourself to feel pressure, which I don't think most girls think they have control over. I'm like, if I said, give me a sandwich right now or do this, it's like, do you feel pressure to give me a sandwich? And they're like, I don't feel pressure. It's like, yeah, because you know you can't give me a sandwich. You don't have one to offer me. But if I said, go do 100 jumping jacks, you have that ability. And so then now you're applying pressure to yourself because you believe you have the ability. So pressure is actually you recognizing that you think you can do it and then trying to go achieve it. And oftentimes we don't feel like we're in control of that pressure. Or maybe there's a gap between what our coaches believe we can do, what we believe we can do. And so we're trying to meet that gap to where our coach believes, and we're not there yet. So pressure it's very real. It's an experience, but it's not real externally from you and your mind and your body. So pressure, it's this wonderful concept. And it's something I think is really tied to mental health and how we compete as athletes. So we don't need to go into that. That might be a whole nother podcast.
Honestly, though, Anna, like I hope that people that are listening out actually rewind all of that and listen to that again, because I think what you just said there might be one of the best things that have been said on this podcast so far is that external pressure that we think is there, but we're creating all that pressure ourselves. And again, I would say majority of the day, all of us do about 90% of things really, really well, and maybe 10% of things we don't. But as humans, and especially in the softball world, we focus on the 10% that we're doing wrong instead of the 90% of the thing that we're really doing right. So I hope that if you're listening and you heard just what Anna said, rewind that, listen to that again, especially if you're in the pitching in that circle, because that was absolutely gold. That was beautiful and awesome. Anna, thank you for sharing that.
And speaking of pressure, that journey took you to college and you were playing, but you had kind of an unusual path to get there. I think for someone who has accomplished as much as you have, the assumption would be that you had all these great offers and you must have just, run right away to University of South Carolina. You actually started out in a junior college. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What made you think of going that route instead of just going right into a 4-year school?
I love talking about this. It is my favorite thing because we hear about the linear journey so often. The story we're telling ourselves is that success is a linear journey. I go here, then I go here. I make the great travel team. And then that travel team gets me to the next great travel team. That next travel team gets me to an offer. That offer gets me to the right college. That right college gets me to conference tournament. That right. Like, we think it's linear. Nothing is linear. Even the things that look linear on paper, when you look at my resume and you go, well, of course she's where she's at. No, linear is only actually a backwards perspective. It's retroactive. It's not proactive. So it's my favorite thing to talk about. I had effectively 0 offers coming out of high school.
Really?
0. Now, yeah, like I will say from a variety of things, like I was not on the most competitive travel ball team. It's not, we couldn't afford it. I wasn't good enough to be truly on one of those truly elite programs. My family, 1 of 5 kids, like we didn't have the money for me to go travel around the country and pitch. And there wasn't money for me to go see the best coaches in the area. There wasn't the resources for me to go do that. And so could I have been better coming out of high school? Yes. Resounding yes. If I had been able and willing to give up more, I could have definitely been better coming out of high school. So that's where I'd like to start is like, my parents didn't know the recruiting game. My parents didn't understand like the travel ball world. Like this is pre like social media where recruiting significantly happened over social media. This is like you were getting recruited because you had a YouTube link and you were emailing that link out, or your coach was calling a coach. It was so network heavy that it was very hard to break out. Not to mention, like, we didn't even know how many softball programs are out in the country. It was very hard to like do a lot of research. Now it's the luxury of over information. If anything, for athletes now, they're like, I could go anywhere. And that's actually very scary to consider. So I could go anywhere. So I'm coming through my high school career. I'm like, oh, I don't really know. Do I want to quit playing and just go to OSU, Oregon State, University of Oregon, and just, be okay with the fact that like, that's maybe the end of my softball career. And I just kept having this like gut feeling. It's like, no, there's more here. There's more here. And it's like, I'm going unsigned. I end up connecting with the Clark College softball coach in Vancouver, Washington. And I was actually originally planning to go there. So I had gone to Clark. I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to be close to home. So excited. And I was like, okay, cool. That's where I'm going. A couple months go by. We play in Medford, Oregon, which is really close to the California border. And this coach from College of the Siskiyous is watching, and he's like, talks to me after the game, talks to a coach. I don't like the details are very fuzzy there, but like ends up being like, hey, I think that you have the potential to do more. I think there's more. And I was like, oh no, I'm already committed. Thanks. Totally blew him off. Yeah. Okay. And like, was like, no, I'm committed. Like I'm not going to like go back on my word. And I am big on not quitting. Like that's big for me. And, he just kept bothering me. I'm like, are you sure? Because I'm putting together this squad and like, we're really, really good. This squad will go to the, California Junior College, like championships, which in California, their Juco system is in California. Like you don't travel outside of it. That's how many Jucos are in California. It's massive. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no. And then, I don't know, one conversation, he was like, do you believe that you can go Division I? And I was like, at this point, no offers. And I'm like, I don't really think so. Like, I don't, and not so much that I didn't think talent wise at the time. It was just like, well, if there's no opportunities, like, how am I going to go D1? And he was like, I think I can get you into a D1 school. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Okay, let's have a conversation because that's interesting to me. And kept talking, and I was like, you know what? Okay, let's do it. So I drove to Clark College and met with the coach in person and was like, hey, I want to let you know that I'm decommitting. No, I'm not coming here. And though he was disappointed, he was supportive. He's like, hey, if that's where you feel like is the best path for you, you should do that. And, actually, that's one of the things I'm the most proud of myself. 18-year-old Anna, like going in person to go break, quote unquote, break up with someone, because it's a relationship. And like, that was very hard, but I'm proud of myself looking back from making that tough decision, because that is hard to do, is to know you're going to let someone down. But making the choice that was right for me. And I go to College of the Siskiyous with Doug Eastman, and we have really, really good competitive years. we kick butt, do all the things. We made it to the championship round where you have the 4 teams go to Bakersfield, and we never won, which was very disappointing. But like we were very competitive, and it was loads and loads of fun. And that actually led to him introducing me to Upstate because he had actually already sent athletes to Upstate. So he said, hey, I think this is where it would be a good fit for you. And so I ended up going out to Upstate, and yeah, the rest is history. But it was like him seeing that within me and saying, I can help get you there was like mind blowing to me. I was like, yeah, you share? And he's like, oh yeah. And that's something that is unique about junior college. That coach is looking at you not because they think you're the best you're going to be today. They're saying, I think I can develop you and I can get you, I can close that gap for you. If you're willing to put in the work, we can close the gap. And I'll be real. There's not a ton of coaches out there who are willing to work with you to close that gap. They want you to show up and be great. Of course, everyone does. But like, are they willing to invest in you and put in the time and the effort to close that gap? And that is rare. I think it's more rare than people realize. A coach only has bandwidth to do that for so many athletes. Obviously, they want to recruit enough that are like game ready. No one's game ready. No one. Everyone has a learning curve going into college. But like, there will be those certain athletes who that coach invests extra in, right? That coach says, hey, I see the potential. And if you're willing to match that work, we will get you to that next level. And that meant getting pushed in the weight room. That meant, getting pushed against harder competition. That meant him saying, hey, you're going to throw back-to-back games today because that's what the team needs. And I know you can do it. So mentally get there so you can go throw both games today. And having someone to say, nope, do it was the thing that I needed to say, no, there's no way out. There's only forward and through. And he always did it from a place of like belief. It was never like, you're not good enough, you got to push harder. It was always like, there is this place ahead of you that I know you can get to, but you have to fight for it. And I was like, okay, that's great. Let's do it. And then that's where my stubbornness really came into play. And it was an amazing experience. I really cannot talk highly enough about the experience I had there. Funny enough, like anecdotally, it's actually where I met my husband. Like he was playing Juco football, I was playing Juco softball. And I think the thing you have in common at Juco is that you're betting on yourself. You are saying, there's more in me. I know there's more in me. I need time. And like, I'm also not ignoring the financial component. Also, going to junior college, financially, way more affordable for me and my family than going to a $40,000 a year Division III program, which I could have also pursued, but I was like, there's just no way. I would say I want to put a little asterisk and back up. I could have talked to some Division III schools when I was a junior and senior in high school, but like I took them off my list because I could not afford to go to a school without taking out significant loans. And for me, financial stability was a top priority in my decision making, which is why junior college was so interesting and appealing to say, like, I can play softball and I'm not going to go $100,000 into debt to pursue this right now. Yeah. So being financially like free when I came out of school and not having a ton of debt was a top priority for me as well.
Well,
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. It sounds like you're smart all the way along. No wonder you've had such a successful business career as well. But thinking from the practical side, rather than letting your ego get the best of you, say, well, I should be playing here. I shouldn't be going to a Juco. I should be doing this or I should be doing that. Sounds like you really looked at it and said, here's my opportunity. And here is where my goals are going to be. I'm thinking a little longer term. And, that Juco journey was a big part of it.
Yeah. And for the parents or coaches or whoever's listening to this, the gameplay at the junior college level is highly competitive in certain areas. There are areas that are not as competitive. So you do need to do some legwork to be like, oh, are these schools sending girls to the next level? Are programs looking at these programs to take girls out of and bring them into their school? You would be surprised how many junior college athletes are getting recruited to major programs. Like, you will be surprised. It's about finding the right program, which is like everything else. And if that is part of your journey of desire is to go to a four-year university and continue playing, there are schools who are already doing this. So to look at that and say, oh, I didn't even know that that school was recruiting out of junior colleges. Yeah, they are, because they want someone coming in with experience, which we might get into transfer portal later and all of that kind of,
right,
situation that's going on in college sports right now. But like the junior college is like the original transfer portal way, which is like, hey, you play for 2 years and then you transfer out, right? You have experience and then you transfer out. And a coach knows that you already have a proven success record before you go to the next level. They know that you can compete, or they at least know that you want to compete and are willing to before they take you on versus taking you as an 18-year-old, or maybe you don't have great grades, maybe you don't have this. And I would also like to say, I'm a 4.0 student. I had fabulous grades coming out of high school. Juco is not only for kids with bad grades. I think that's also a perception, is that, oh, you only go to Juco if you have bad grades. Extremely false. Extremely false. I had a 4.0. I had a 3.8 something, not AP adjusted. Like, I had really strong grades coming out of high school, but the classes I took at junior college were the same credentialed classes that I would have taken at a 4-year, out of my 2-year. And I had super small class sizes. Like, I could call one of those junior college teachers and be like, hey, I need a referral. And they actually knew who I was. So it was almost like getting a private education class size at a junior college, which is pretty much like, I think my tuition was like $3,000, like nothing compared to what I could have spent. So I just want to like debunk that myth of like, oh, JUCO's for kids with bad grades. Nope. So let's just want to throw that out there. What myth bust while we're at it.
Again, I think it's all of that is so valuable. I mean, again, there's a lot of kids that have opportunities post junior college, and there's some very competitive junior colleges like you've talked about. So I think that's all great. I do want to fast forward a little bit though, and if you're okay with it too, after you make that decision to go to Upstate, like what was your experience like there? To give us a little bit of that, you spent those 2 years learning, growing, and developing at the junior college level. You have this opportunity now to go play at the Division I level at Upstate. What was that experience like for you there at Upstate?
I'm down to fast forward, but I have to pause and say that Coach Rick Pauly is the reason I went to Upstate. When I went on my visits to look at other schools, I was actually dead set on going to a different school that I had been on a visit on until I went to Upstate. And Coach Pauly was like, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your pitching. Tell me what you want to work on. Tell me how you want to get better. And I was like, X, Y, and Z. And he was like, okay, let's talk a little bit mechanics. And he like challenged me and blew my mind. And I was like, what? I've been taught so differently. I am so intrigued. So I just want to say that Coach Pauly, like, I wanted to be challenged. Like, he is the reason I was like, I want a challenge. I want someone who's going to shove me and drag me and like help me get there. Like, I'm running, but he's also like pulling me to be like, go faster, because that's what it takes to make it at the Division I level after that. The experience going into D1 softball was tough. Like, I don't want to downplay how incredibly like intense and challenging the jump was. There is a jump, high school to college, just to Juco, and then Juco to Division I is a jump. And I was at a mid-major. I wasn't even at a like major, SEC or larger school. So like there was a big jump in just the caliber and consistency. I think is the biggest difference. The consistency is the key one, where at some levels you see a kid who can maybe perform, every day or two, or, she's performing some semi-consistently. At the Division I level, I'm seeing girls perform like 90% of the time. Now, that doesn't mean they get a hit. That doesn't mean that they execute all the time, but they are so consistent in the way they swing, in the way they field, in the way they show up. Like, they're mentally showing up the same every day. Even if they don't always get there, they're showing up with the similar like caliber of performance every single day. And that is amazing. And so to go from like, okay, I'm showing up, to now it's like, you better show up or you're going to get rocked today at practice. So it was like, walking into practice knowing that like, if I'm not on an A game today, like I'm going to get taken yard by every single one of my teammates. Like, they will humble you in the best way possible. They're not trying to make you look bad. They're just doing their thing. And so just mentally saying, okay, I'm playing with some of the best athletes I've ever played with in my entire life. I have to be better to compete with them, right? So it's part of that, like iron sharpens iron. You're getting better by playing against the best. And it was tough. Like we had a really talented pitching staff at Upstate. Like they recruited incredible pitchers. So like I was always like, not only obviously trying to improve, but like I'm trying to find my spot within our rotation. And my junior year, I actually didn't pitch much. Like Polly like was really trying to like push me and elevate me and push me to the next level. And I struggled with my consistency. I struggled with throwing strikes. I struggled with, expanding the zone. And so Polly and I were working really, really, really hard on just getting me to be more consistent, lowering my walks. I would say if you looked at my stats, you'd be like, oh my God, you threw so many strikeouts. Well, yeah, when you throw a lot of pitches and they move a lot and people don't swing, they turn into balls pretty quickly and then they walk. So the double-edged sword, right? It's like your best thing, your strikeout percent, and then also your walk percent oftentimes are related because you're throwing more pitches and therefore you get in deeper counts, more foul balls, etc. So I actually didn't get a ton of time because I wasn't showing our coaches that I could be consistent enough. So they were throwing other pitchers who were consistent and owning it and spinning it and amazing. I actually got an opportunity later in the season, like I'm saying like back third of the season going into conference tournament because something clicked for me after all the work and all of a sudden I was commanding the zone better. And you know what, for me, it was throwing a bullpen every single day, even when I wasn't going to go in and pitch. Like I was not heavily in the rotation at one point, but I was just like going into pitching. And like I was pitching in the bullpen and I drove our poor catchers insane because I threw so many bullpens and I was always throwing. And I was like, this is going to click for me eventually. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to click. And then one day we turned a corner. I think we played University of Georgia and, our starter gave up a couple runs, I feel like early in the game. And so I went in and they were pretty much like, here you go. Like it's going to click or it's not.
Here you go. You're chum now.
Yeah, seriously. Because if you're going into a game where you're down, I think maybe we're down 4-0 at that point in the second inning, third inning, like early in the game where they're kind of saying, we're playing Georgia. Like this is a really tough offense. If we can put up more than that in runs, like that would be really impressive. And we managed to, and we beat Georgia and it was epic and really cool. And like everyone played so well that day. And like we beat a team that really, we probably shouldn't have beaten, but that's the beauty of sports, right? Any given day. And like that for me was like a day of change. I was like, interesting. I can do it. I can do it. And from then on, it was kind of like, let's keep finding ways to make me better. And then we went into conference tournament and I got to throw a bunch and it was awesome. And we won our conference tournament that year, which got us a bid into regionals. And then at regionals, I got to throw more. And so this is my one claim to fame is throwing a 5-inning perfect game at an Alabama regional. Not against Alabama, let's be clear. I didn't throw it against Alabama, at an Alabama regional. And the first hit of the game, the girl like hit the hardest line drive off me and our shortstop dove and caught it. Like it was an amazing play. And like, I think about that all the time, how if she hadn't made that play in the first inning, like that perfect game is gone. But because our defense was so outstanding, they just played amazingly. And like a 5-inning perfect game is not a reflection of me so much. It's a reflection of our defense. Like I can throw whatever I want, but if our defense doesn't make plays, then it doesn't matter. Like our defense was beyond outstanding. So like that really catapulted me into that then senior year where I really then said, I kind of like settled into myself and was like, I belong here. And it took some time for me to feel like I truly belonged. And I don't think I would have felt like I belonged at that level competing without Polly being like, you do, like, here's the gap. Here's how we're going to close that gap. And here's how we're going to get you there. And we did it. And it was awesome.
Well, I think that there's two important points that you're making there. One is, I think everybody always assumes that players who are great or who, are seen as being outstanding just started out that way. And obviously you didn't. You kind of grew along the way. And it also points out the importance of a coach that believes in you and getting with the right people. You don't have to put up with someone who doesn't care or someone who just wants to yell and scream and just say, be better and all of that. It's someone that will say, hey, I know you're not where you want to be. I know you're not where we need you to be, but you can be, and let's work on it.
Yeah. I think the willingness to admit that you're not as good as you want to be does take you to like get that ego to kind of like sit down, say, you have to have ego. Like you have to believe in yourself. There has to be ego there to say like, I'm good enough to be here. And you have to be able to tell that ego to, hey, relax. Like being challenged is not a threat to your ego. Being challenged is actually a compliment because it means that person across from you believes in you, because someone who doesn't believe in you does not challenge you. If Polly didn't think I could do it, if Coach Pack didn't think I could do it, he wouldn't have said anything, right? Coach Hawkins, he would never have said yes to recruiting me if he didn't think that I could level up and be better. So when someone challenges, and this is not a softball thing, this is a marriage, this is a parenting, this is working, this is societally. If someone is challenging you, it is not that they do not think you are good enough, not that they don't think you're smart. It's none of those things. It's actually, they think that there is more within you. They see light within you. They see something in you that they're like, I want to help you get there. And now that doesn't mean you have to accept it, right? You get to choose what you want to do with that information. But like when people challenge you, they're really giving you an opportunity to meet them in the middle of like, hey, yeah, I do want to improve in that way. And I really try to bring this into my marriage, which is like, hey, this is a tough thing that, we're working through being new parents. Hey, I could really use your support in this way. And we'll say that to each other. And it's, if you can let your ego be like, it's not that I'm not being a good parent or a good spouse or all those things. It's, I'm struggling, right, to my husband, and I'm giving him the opportunity to step in and help me out, which he wants to help me. He's an awesome person. And so if I can help communicate to him where I'm struggling, he can step up to the challenge, right? Pressure, like all these things are very much in the same theme, which is like, are you willing to listen, right? And accept a challenge, kind of like a superhero. I think of it as, I'm Wonder Woman and they're like, we need you to go on this mission to do whatever. And I say, yeah, I'm willing to accept that and do what it takes. And as we know from all superhero movies, there will be challenges, there will be turmoil, and it's, you will do whatever it takes to get through that. And like, to me, if you look at every challenge in your life, like a little hero's journey, it's much easier to like make the story that it's going to work out for you at the end.
So you obviously had a lot of influences in your career. So how did that lead you into coaching? Was that something that did have an impact that way? How'd you get started?
Yeah, I think that working with Polly really made me more curious. Like he challenged literally every assumption I had about pitching. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yes. And as I went into it deeper, I was like, oh, I'm actually not sure about anything. And that, like, to me, the realization that you don't know anything, like, obviously you know a lot, but you don't actually know things that are always true 100% of the time. Like, they're true for me, but that doesn't mean it's true for someone else. Like, I literally watched how Polly coached us differently. Like, he was not coaching us all the same. He was individually coaching us on our strengths and our weaknesses. And I was like, so interesting, because in the training that I was getting, it was like, everyone does this, wrist snaps, everyone gets sideways, everyone, like these very specific movements, which Polly's like, what if I told you that you don't use your wrist the way you think you do? And I was like, wrong. And then he was like, okay, cool, let's test it. And like, he literally let me go through the failure of being like, oh no, that's actually not right. Right? He let me kind of understand and learn on my own terms. And then like, I was taught to get sideways. That was a major like teaching point for pretty much everyone I worked with when I was growing up, was like, get sideways, get sideways, get sideways. Polly was like, what if I told you you don't have to force yourself to get sideways. And I was like, what? That can't be true. And then, as he's like educating me with video, I was like, this process of education is so fascinating. It actually has nothing to do with mechanics. It has everything to do with my understanding of movement, how I move, how others move, and just getting out of my own way for a lot of times. Like I was forcing my body to do things when my body was literally doing them naturally. And when you force your body to do something, you lose a lot of the athleticism that comes along with being an athlete. And it made me actually kind of appreciate how when I was a kid, I never was mechanics, right? Like I was always just like play. And I was like, I was not great, but like I was pretty good just like playing and not thinking about mechanics. And like teaching literal mechanics can actually hurt you because now you're trying to do a movement instead of allowing your body to move. And so that really made me go, I want to help other athletes get out of their own way and like not work so hard. And that just like exploded my mind. And then when Mike came into the picture, I went to a clinic with Mike and Ken Berggren, and they were like, and here's more information around the sprint and the takeoff. And like this, the amount of information that I've been able to glean from other coaches in my life is beyond. And I want to help every athlete that I work with, mostly just to see that she actually knows more than she thinks she knows, but it's not like she has to try. She needs to allow. It's an allowance. You are you, and your expression of your movement and body is like this God-given natural ability, right? Not to be a great athlete, but to be a person. Yeah. Just to exist. Like you are already built in an incredible way. Can you allow your body to move in the way it wants to move? How do we help you move naturally? And like naturally is this like, I don't love the word naturally, but like everyone has a natural pattern that their body moves in. Like, how do we help you to move the way your body wants you to move? And then how do we help you perform, right? So there's existing and like moving as a human. Like, I really feel like softball is art. Like how I move as an athlete is my expression of art, is my doing. I'm 0% artistic in drawing. Like I don't do art otherwise. For me, movement is art. Softball is art. Like competing is art. It's this like application of my talents. And I want to help other athletes feel like it's an application of their talents, not the set of rules they must follow, because rules and control very rarely lead to you feeling like the best version of yourself. You feel like you like criticize yourself. You're like, I didn't do that one very specific thing that my coach told me to do, and that's why I failed. And it's like, maybe it's not. Maybe it's because you're fighting yourself and you're wasting your precious energy fighting to do the mechanic instead of competing, which is really what we're here to do. So that's what I wanted. I was like, I just want to help unlock more of these things with other athletes. And, it's tough. Athletes sometimes want rules.
Yeah.
They want check marks. They want things that they can go accomplish. And I really try to work with them and be like, I hate to tell you this, but there isn't a checkbox that makes you an elite pitcher. It doesn't exist. The only thing that makes you elite is consistent hard work on the right things over time.
Woo, that was a lot. Let's just put it that way. I feel like you just opened up a whole can of worms here. We're definitely going to have you on a podcast. We start talking about the get sideways and the wrist flick stuff. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast in itself with you. But that everything there was absolutely fantastic too. Do you feel that you've kind of gravitated a little bit more, or have you grown and developed as a coach too? Because I always say we always ask our players to develop, go take extra reps and classes here and that, but you don't see coaches developing, or I shouldn't say all of them, but some coaches are like, well, this is the way it's supposed to be, right? Without trying to get any prior knowledge. How do you feel you've grown and developed as a coach, for Anna?
I think this is the hardest thing, I'll be honest, to know what is actually improving our athletes and what is actually just giving them a new set of rules. And that for me is like a constant humbling reminder of myself, because there are so many schools of thought around coaching and around these things. And I don't like to drop names or talk crap about or any of these styles, but like there's lots of these coaches out there who are like, this is the way you pitch. And there have been seasons where I'm like, yeah, that's it. And And then I always run into a kid or 5 after that who don't follow the rule. And I'm like, but she's like mega elite. Is she an anomaly? And then I'm like, no, she's not an anomaly. There's these 30 other kids who look like her, who move like her. So this can't be the only way. That doesn't mean it doesn't work for some kids, but it can't work on a mass scale. And I think the more we realize as coaches that most things do not work on a mass scale. And I think this comes from like the business world of things being scalable, and like we want to make scale, and we want this to work for 100%, and it doesn't. People are not scalable, right? Like you can, like coaching, not like, sure, there's ways that you can scale as a coaching business, but at the end of the day, you need people connecting with other people. And that is really what it takes. So I try actually not to buy into any form of like rules now. I really try to be like, okay, that's a way. Can I take one little piece from that coach's style and apply it to one of my athletes? Not even all of them. Just like, will this help one athlete? Okay, cool. Put that in my file. Oh, this other thing from over here, put that in my file. Like I'm more of like a collector of gems from across the internet. Like, granted, Coach Polly, like he's got like at least 50 gems, right? Jay, I've taken gems from you. Ken, I've taken gems from you. I take gems from everyone, and I'm like, oh, I put that in my little filing cabinet of pitching hacks or pitching tips, and I just hold on to them until I find an athlete who is like, I'm struggling with this, and I'm like, do I have a tip for you? I was actually listening to your guys' last podcast where I think it was Morgan who she went to Northwestern and worked with Michelle Gascoigne. Michelle Gascoigne gave me an incredible little gem, which is like when you're working on a backdoor curve, right? For your athletes who throw a curveball, just put a second plate there and tell them to throw to the first plate instead of the second plate. So the second plate is like your standard home plate. Put a plate on the other side and throw to that plate.
Nice.
I was like, oh my God, that is an incredible gem. Wow. Like that's a little gem that I've used for our pitchers who throw backdoors, which is only a small percent of girls who effectively throw a backdoor curve. But I was like, amazing. We have a lefty pitcher on our PLU squad. Perfect. It's like, yeah, I just grabbed these little gems and been like, that's a great tip to help that athlete visualize. Sean has like just gems coming out of his ears. Like there's so many things that he has talked about where it's like physical limitations. There are some kids who need physical limitations. You got to put like a broom, or you got to put a cone, or, you know, at the home plate, you have to put something there to block visually, to block their body. Like sometimes athletes need constraints to be successful. Wow, I never thought of constraints being a helpful tool, but no, constraints are actually one of my favorite ways to help an athlete visualize or execute, because a game is tons of constraints, right? You have balls and counts and umpires and time limits. Like the game is full of constraints, and we all agree upon those constraints. So one of the best ways to train an athlete mentally is to give them a bunch of constraints that are maybe harder than a game. So when they get into a game, they're like, oh, there's only a time constraint and a strike zone constraint and a count constraint. Those are easy to manage compared to this crazy thing that Anna made me go through, which was like, okay, now you have to hop on one foot for 30 seconds. I'm making this up. I haven't actually done this, and then I have to recite the alphabet backwards. And right. So like giving them constraints to mentally train can actually help them adhere to the game constraints later. Yeah. So like just gems all over. The pitching coach who was at Coastal Carolina, I'm blanking on her name, was like, hey, do a game where if they throw a positive pitch, they get a draw from a jar that has like outcomes on it. And if it's a positive pitch, they draw from a jar where it's 75% good outcomes, outs, pop flies. If they throw a bad pitch, draw from the jar that's 75% negative outcomes, which means sometimes you're going to get lucky and you're going to pull one that says like, oh, she got out even though you piped one. And then sometimes she's going to, when she throws a beautiful pitch, she's going to give up a home run, because guess what? That's the game. Executing does not guarantee success. So like there's all these little gems that I try to pull in. So like I'm always learning. And there's stuff that since I became a mom, actually, honestly, since I got pregnant, my brain's been like, whoa, we don't have any capacity. And so right now I'm actually in a season of like, I'm not actually doing a ton of learning as a pitching coach right now. I'm not. I like have accepted the fact that, you know what, I'm in a limited capacity for taking in new information because I am experiencing the challenges of being a parent, which is holy cow, is like this whole new world of challenges. And so I'm actually like, you know what, I'm okay not really exploding my brain as a pitching coach. And there are seasons where I'm like, I just consume all the content as a pitching coach I possibly can. So it's like, I'm also have learned to kind of accept a season of life. When you're in a season of life that's chaos, you say, okay, like my role in this season of life is chaos, parenting, is to be present and allow things to unravel and unfold. That is my current place. And so for me, it's like, whether you call it meditation, whether you call it mantras, whether you call it prayer, whatever it looks like, that is where I am really holding strength, which is, you know what? This is a lot right now. I am allowing things to unravel. Where then there are other times in my life where like I'm pushing the boulder up the hill and I'm like, we're going to move this boulder and I'm going to move this boulder and I'm going to do what it takes to get through. And that is sometimes my season. So I feel like that's something as a coach, we have to accept that there are literal seasons to our year, right? Like you have summer where we are recruiting, where we are maybe doing camps, and that's a season of like hunting, right? And then we go into fall and that's a season of learning, listening, and like retooling. And then you're in the winter and that's kind of a season of like regeneration and preparation. And then you go into your actual season, which is the fight and the grind and all that, right? So like accepting that there are literal seasons to our season. And then there's also seasons as you as a human. I've just had to accept I do have limitations. And that honestly is I'm trying to see my limitations, my constraints as actually the blessing. My limitations are not a fault. My limitations are actually a good thing because it is forcing me to be present with my daughter. This time is so hard and so precious, and I want to be present for it. And that is tough. Just like in season, I want to be present for my athletes in season as much as possible, and I don't want to be distracted. So I don't even remember what the question was at this point. I feel like I'm just rambling. But growth for me as a coach is really about knowing when to push the boulder up the hill and knowing when to allow the boulder to roll down.
That makes sense. And the other thing too is that you're not, unlike a lot of the people that we talk to and all of that, you are not 100% coaching either. You're not 100% softball. You have a pretty cool day job as well. How'd you wind up at GameChanger?
I do have the coolest day job. I'm not going to lie. So yeah, being a pitching coach is very, very, very part-time for me. Physically anyways. It's funny. I may not be there physically very often, but like mentally I feel like I'm always there if I can. Like I'm always mentally there when I can be. So for my day job at GameChanger, I feel like I got here through sheer just stubbornness as well. So when I graduated, I played in the pro league for a season. I hurt my elbow and I decided that, the process of rehabilitation and competing again, I did not have it in me from a financial perspective, from an energy perspective. I had to go get a job. I was like, oof, okay. So I started working for Combat. Well, it
was probably hard to give up those big bucks you were making in the pro league too, huh?
Yeah. Not so much in the big bucks, but it was big dreams. It was hard to give up on the big dreams. Yep. I will say that. I worked for Combat Sports Group, started out as a marketing coordinator, actually through the work in the pro league. They were a sponsor of the league at the time. So I started out that path and I was like, oh, this is so fun working on bats and marketing the bats and products to fast pitch, slow pitch, and baseball. And it was really fun. And I enjoyed the experience. I loved staying in the game. And then we got consolidated and went to Easton. So my job went away. I actually took that opportunity to go to New Zealand for 3 months and coach, which was the most amazing experience of my life. Came back, had the heck of a time finding a job, ended up getting super lucky and getting a job at Dick's Sporting Goods as a community marketing manager for the state of Washington. And I got to then sponsor leagues, organizations, like give them buckets of balls. And like, if you've ever seen a Dick's Sporting Goods banner on a field, like a community marketing manager likely put it there. And like, I got to stay in sports that way. And I was like, oh, I love this. Manage staying sports. And like, obviously knew about GameChanger because it was the best app on the market for scorekeeping. And I ended up meeting Kylie because she came to one of our CMM meetings. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love GameChanger. I played here, and her husband actually worked for the Chicago Bandits. So like we had like a little pro softball connection. And all of a sudden she was like, hey, we have this job opening at GameChanger. It's remote. Are you interested? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I really love my job and it's remote and all these things. And she was like, look, just talk to the hiring manager, see if you're interested. It was for a softball ambassador at the time. And I was like, I just don't know if that's a good fit in my career. As soon as I interviewed, I was like, yeah, no, like this is definitely a good fit. So came over to GameChanger about 3 years ago. And then I started out more as like a softball ambassador, which was like, you know, being an authentic voice within softball, going to conventions, going on-site events, and just having conversations around softball. That transitioned into partnerships. So USA Softball, Little League, all these amazing entities in the softball space that we had partnerships. We had contracts with them. And so I was helping to negotiate contracts and fulfill our agreements and all that. And I loved that work. And then we transitioned, kind of grown and redistributed our team. And that put me more into just like a field marketing manager role. And that has led to getting to do the NFCA Leadoff Classic. We've done activations with USA Softball. We've done just like so many fun things in the field. And it is one of the most cool things is getting to stay involved in the sport, even if I'm not able to play anymore.
So do you have anything cool coming up in the next few weeks?
You know, this is the best time of year because college softball is kicking off and we have the 2025 NFCA Leadoff Classic. It actually kicks off next week. So next Thursday, or I don't know when this is going to air. So Thursday, the 6th of February, we have 2 matchups that will kick off. You can watch Texas Tech and Nebraska. They're not playing each other that night, but they're squaring off. So maybe we see Jordy, maybe we see Nyjah. And then they actually will square off on Saturday. Hopefully both of them will pitch. We know there's no guarantees, but we're very optimistic. And that's actually also going to be broadcast on MLB Network. So we're so excited because softball really hasn't had a presence on MLB Network much. And so we're partnering with them as part of our larger MLB partnership to bring softball to MLB Network to really grow the game and let people watch the most incredible matchups to kick off the year. And for those of you who don't know, you can watch for free all of the games on GameChanger. So if you have the GameChanger app, search NFCA, all the teams will come up, the tournament will come up. You can tune in all next week and weekend.
Fabulous. That sounds like fun. I know what I'll be doing next weekend.
Definitely. My favorite time of the year right now is so much softball. I'm going to be on in the next couple of weeks. Really quickly, and Ken, maybe you know this too, but is GameChanger ever going to make something the app is going to be able to be broadcast on TV? Or can I is there a way for me to take the app and broadcast it onto a TV? Because I want to watch my softball, but I want to watch it as big as possible. Is that something that is coming down the line maybe, or is there a way to do it? I don't know. If anybody even knows, reach out and let me know because I want to watch my softball on my big TV.
So there are ways to do it right now. We don't have like a Roku app or anything yet. I'm so optimistic that we will at one point. One of 3 ways. One is just take your computer, HDMI it into your TV, watch it on the big. You can go to web. So go to gc.com, click sign in, go to web, and it'll bring up your team so you can watch it and just plug in. That's generally what I will do. Is I'll just plug in my laptop for whatever softball I want to watch and then plug it in the TV. That's one way. Another way is to cast. If you have 2 smart TVs, you can actually cast. So take your phone, cast, go to your TV, you can watch it. I love watching on the big TV. Totally agree. Or if you are very tech savvy, a great TV, you can actually log in often on your TV browser and go to web.gc.com and then sign in from your TV and watch it that way. So there's a couple ways to do it. I actually prefer a computer HDMI because then I can, plug it in and it's a little easier to use. But yeah, that's how I watch all of our games on our big TV. And for PLU, when I can't travel on the road, we stream through our team website. And that's what I'll do is I'll pull it up on the TV through my laptop.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely pass that on because I know that everyone's like, but can I watch on TV? Because no one wants to watch on a small screen.
I've done that before where I've casted it, and it is really a cool experience just to see, you're watching some kid, some 13-year-old girl that you've been working with and all that, and her team is playing, and you're watching it on a 65-inch TV, and it's such a fun experience. So it's great that you guys have all of that. And obviously you keep improving the app. One of the things that I've mentioned before was that, used to be for somebody like me who's got a lot of kids that are playing at the same time. And I was trying to figure out, you'd get the notification, but you could never go back and find, okay, now who's playing, what's going on. You guys changed the home screen. Now it's got the thing where you have, what games are coming up, what games are going on right now, what results you've had for the last couple of days. It is so convenient. And then when you click on one of those games, when you click out of it, it goes right back to that screen. So I can just go through when I'm supposed to be paying attention at a family event or something. I'm, over there checking on scores, looking at box scores. How'd my kid do? Oh my God, she walked 5 people. Oh, I know what I'll be working on with her. But it is great. And do you have other things like that coming out that you can share?
I will say we are always putting out new features. Our product and engineering team, they are incredible. So I will say right now, the features that they are working on that are like in flight is changes to permission. So that way you can assign actually more videographers and scorekeepers that are not staff, because that's something people run into is like, I need, I have 4 staff and then I have 2 videographers and I need, 2 more videographers because that parent doesn't come. So this gives more flexibility to coaches to be able to say, hey, I have five people who can video now that are not going against my staff. So like that's a really helpful one. The biggest product undertaking is actually one of our newest features, which is the ability to record offline and upload post-event.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which we can't solve the internet, unfortunately. I would love for us to solve the internet at GameChanger, but it's just not feasible. So now you can, if you go into your streaming setting and hit record video, it'll take you through, do you want to stream live? Do you want to stream and record? Or do you want to record only? Right now, if you record only, you don't get all the clips. And so I highly suggest doing, if you want a hard copy, do the middle tier, which is to stream live and have a hard copy. So that way you get both versions of it. So you get the live and then you also get a really high quality copy after the fact. But like, we'll use that this year because there are times where our internet is just not that great. When we go on the road for our spring games, we're not at our home field, so we don't have our automatic streaming. So we can at least, put up a phone, stream it. If we have good enough internet, we can stream it. And I know that if it drops, that's okay. We get a hard recording after the fact. So it's just a nice peace of mind where if it does drop, I don't lose the whole game, because parents want to see that. They want to see the big hit. And obviously live is amazing and the best for like real time, but not all of us can watch real time. So at least if I have the recording, I can go back and watch later. I love using it from a learning perspective, saying, hey, I use this, and another podcast for how I use GameChanger to like grow and develop and like what stats we look at, because we don't look at all of them. I think people have this perception that like stats are good or bad. I'm like, no. Stats are just information. So we could spend a whole nother podcast on how stats and video can help grow and develop and measure over time with some, data that's not biased. It's just information. And then obviously we want to talk about how
Anna, we're going to hold you to that, by the way. Doing another podcast just on how to take better advantage of GameChanger.
Would love to.
So I guess the question, you've talked a lot about a lot of different aspects, a lot of things you're doing. How do you balance all of that? I think that's a problem a lot of people have. You've got the day job. You're obviously working hard with GameChanger. You're pitching coach. You are the coach, PLU, and also being a mom, which is obviously your most important job. How do you balance all of that?
You don't. You don't balance it. There are times where you are running on 1% all the time, and that's okay, right? Like, and for me, it's about knowing that this is not forever. It's a chunk of time, a season of life, however you want to talk about it to yourself. This is a season of life. This is a week of life. And like, I feel like with a baby, you kind of learn like, oh, this sleep regression they're going through right now is going to end. What can we do to help her get through this teething? This will end. Like, these are all temporary things. And so just saying like, there is no balance, there is ebb and flow. It's like the ocean, right? Comes in, it comes out. You're not, sometimes you're at high tide, right? Where it's like, oh, wow, the water's coming in really hot. Sometimes you're at low tide where you're like, wow, I have so much time and bandwidth. And so it's accepting both for what it is and not trying to pull the tide either way, but take advantage of when things are high tide. What can I do with this time? And when things are not, and I can relax, like use that time to recharge. I think the best thing we can do is to allow things to happen when you can. And when you need to make things happen, know that you have something to dig deep from. Like if you are always exhausting yourself, you never have a reserve to dig from. You have to have a reserve You have to find balance in the reserve. Like there's no balance in life. There's only like, hey, I know when to push and I know when to not push. And it's a constant learning curve. It's like, wow, I pushed myself and I was not kind to my husband because I was digging from a place where I didn't have any, I didn't have anything left. And so when I don't have anything left, I get really cranky. Or with my work, I'm stretching myself too thin. I'm saying yes to too many things. I learn my lesson and I pull back and I say no to some things. And it's also not beating yourself up for saying no or saying yes or making the wrong decision. The best thing you can do is not beat yourself up, actually, is to say, wow, that was the wrong decision, and move on. That's it. Don't justify it. Just say that was the wrong decision and move on. And the next time that decision comes up, how do I stay true to my integrity? That's it. If you can, and like that's the 18-year-old Anna who drove to Clark, who told that coach, hey, I'm going to go play somewhere else. Like I look back at that decision and I go, that was the right decision for me to make. And I handled it in the way that I would have hoped to. And there's a million decisions I haven't handled in a good way. But I can say, okay, how do I make a decision that's within my integrity from here on forward? And that means letting other people down sometimes. That means doing less sometimes. That means falling short sometimes. That means, not being the best. And I think it's okay to not be the best. I am doing my best. And if that's not enough for you, that's okay. And I'm okay to disappoint you. You're an adult. You can handle disappointment. And I need to be okay with you being disappointed. And you know what? I'm getting much better at that. I'm like, you know what? The only person I don't want to disappoint is myself. Because I have to live with myself for the rest of my life. Everyone else, like, I'm going to disappoint my daughter. I'm going to disappoint my husband. I'm literally going to disappoint everyone I love in my life, which sucks. And I need to be okay with that to quote unquote balance life. Is I will have to disappoint other people as I try to do my best. And that's all I can do. And everything else is just life.
Awesome.
Anna, we've taken up way too much of your time. I know that I could talk to you for another hour. Your answers have just been so much fun, so inspiring. I'm sure Jay feels the same way.
Absolutely.
But, we do have to let you go because you do have all those other things going on.
I think we're going to have to let you go now, Anna, as Ken was saying. So thank you so much for being here with us today. All the things that you shared, not just about softball, but about just life in general, about GameChanger. All of it was absolutely amazing. And again, we are definitely going to have you back on this podcast again, hopefully to talk about another, maybe some more GameChanger, or again, I'd like to even talk a little bit of softball pitching mechanics with you too as well. So anything else you want to leave or share with some of our listeners before you go?
Yeah, I will just say that for those of you out there who are coaching, who are parents, who are athletes, wherever you are within the coaching softball community, thank you for what you do. To play the game as the athlete and love the sport is an expression of your love of life. To coach and to be a parent is your expression of loving our kids and our families and our communities. And I'm so fortunate to be a part of a community that truly embraces and loves one another. And, we may not agree, we may have different vantage points, but we all can come together and really show, we care about our kids. We care about their growth, their fun, their enjoyment of life. And so I'm so incredibly fortunate to have the people out of my life, to have Ken and Jay in my life. I think the people that we get to spend our lives with truly is what makes it special. And so I just feel so lucky to be here. And shameless plug to tune into the Leadoff Classic. So you can find that if you can go to NFCA's website. If you just search Leadoff Classic, if you go into GameChanger and search NFCA, National Fastpitch Coaches Association, you'll find all those teams, because we have some amazing softball and I don't want anyone to miss out. Jay and Ken, I'll also shoot you a link to our website, just if you guys can post it or just post it on your personal pages, because shamelessly, there's pretty much no other place to watch preseason Division I softball for free. Everywhere else is you gotta have a subscription, you gotta pay for it. We're unlocking it for free. All the features, all the stats, everything. So we want everyone to tune in.
Great, thanks. Well, Jay, you want to take us out?
Yeah. So again, thanks everybody for tuning in to From the Coach's Mouth. What a great guest we had today with Anna Nickel. On behalf of Ken Krause and myself, we look forward to you guys joining us for our next podcast. Thanks again, Anna, for joining us today. We really appreciate you.
Yes, for sure.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.